ahead and call the July 6, 2010 meeting of the Jackson City Council to order. And we'll ask Councilman David Cisco to lead us in our invocation and pledge. If you would, please rise.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and the many blessings of life that you give us. We thank you for our country and the men and women that serve us and protect us, to allow us freedoms. We thank you for this city. And God, we thank you for this mayor and this council. We ask today that you be with us, give us the wisdom and the courage to make the right decisions for the people of our city. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think you can show all council members are present for this meeting. The time is the approval of minutes of the June 1st, 2010 meeting. Council members got a copy of those minutes. If there are any additions or corrections, if they'll let it be known now. If not, we'll accept those minutes as distributed. Next item is commendation that we'd like to present, and I'll ask Tony Black, Director of Parks and Recreation of the city, and Mr. Tillman Corum to come up if you would. Well, we have a special commendation this morning. If y'all, most of you recall the great flood we had, and we had a special event take place during that time. And I want to recognize a very special individual this morning who has been a part of our city for a number of years and has a very special task that he takes care of almost on a daily basis. It's a commendation whereas the City Council of Jackson, Tennessee would like to recognize Mr. Tillman Corum for material service at Cypress Grove Nature Park during the May 2010 floods. And whereas on the night of the flooding, Mr. Corum waded into Cypress Grove Nature Park through chest-deep floodwaters to rescue the endangered birds of prey that are housed at the park and its Raptor Education Center. Whereas over the following days, until the water receded, he continued to travel in by boat numerous times to feed and care for the remaining birds left at the park. And whereas Mr. Corum performed an invaluable service to the park and to this community in protecting and preserving the endangered wildlife of our nature park. Now therefore, I, Jerry Gist, Mayor of the City of Jackson, Tennessee, do hereby commend Mr. Tillman Corum and urge all citizens to recognize Mr. Tillman for his courageous efforts to save the wildlife at Cypress Grove Nature Park. Mr. Corum, it's an honor for me to present this to you on behalf of the Jackson City Council and the people of this city, thanking you for your efforts at Cypress Grove. Thank you. And I think Tony has.
Before I give Tillman this presentation, let me tell you a little something about Tillman. He's one of those employees that I hope every department has at least one in their department. He's never complains. A few months back, he came to my office, and he was really, really sad. He said he had some good news and some bad news. The good news was that he was retiring from the school system after what, about 40 years, 30 years? 33 years. The bad news was that since he was retiring, that his hours working at the park would have to be reduced. And he was hurt. He was really sad. He was really, really not happy about that. And we told him that we'd work it out where we would get the coverage that he normally provides. Now, mayor and city council and other people, I love my job. But I don't think I'm gonna wade in waist-high water at Cypress Grove with a flashlight because there are some jakes out there. But Tillman, the night of the flood, continuously went in. When we got him a boat, he went in on the boat. But for the first few days, he waded waist high to make sure the birds were taken care of. Because we have some bald eagles, and of course the government said you have to take care of them. So we really, really want to thank Tillman, and we have a plaque that I'd like to read. The City of Jackson and the Jackson Recreation Parks Department presents this plaque as a token of our appreciation to Tillman Corey for your outstanding service and dedication above and beyond the call of duty during the May 1st floods at Cypress Grove Nature Park, presented this 6th day of July, 2010. And Tillman, we really, really appreciate your work ethic, your service to the community, and above all, we really appreciate the type of attitude that you display in doing your work.
Okay, item 6 is the invitation for public comment. If there's anyone present who would like to address the council on any item under new business, let me urge you to raise your hand and come up to the front and just let us know what those business is. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and continue. We do. Oh, yes, please, come on up.
Is it allowed to make comment on the readings of the ordinances, or just on the new business?
Sir, if you'd like to make a comment on anything, you come on up to up to the desk, please.
Right here?
If you would, and just introduce yourself.
My name's Brian Dawson. I live here in Jackson. And having read in the newspapers about the proposed daytime juvenile curfew ordinance, I have some concerns about that ordinance that I would like to present. First of all, we're all aware of the great controversy regarding the Arizona immigration law and the fact that people could be stopped and their papers checked to see if they're legal or illegal in this country. However, at least there has to be some other probable cause to stop them. In this ordinance, it appears that no such probable cause is necessary. It appears, at least in the way, the version that is given in the newspaper, that anyone under the age of 18 or anyone who looks young can be stopped, whether they're a law-abiding citizen, minding their own business, doing nothing wrong. They can be stopped simply because of the way they look, because they look under age 18. And that's not something that we do in a free country. And yes, I realize that there are reasons why this could maybe help a few things, that it could help people in stopping some of the truancy that is there. But yet it's also true that as I looked out here at this Freedom Shrine, I've never been in this building, well, in this room here before, and so I saw that Freedom Shrine as I came in and saw the copy of the Constitution there. The Fourth Amendment against unreasonable search and seizure, if it wasn't there, then the police would have an easier time doing their job, I'm sure, solving property crimes and other things, if they could just inspect anyone's homes they wanted any time without a warrant. But yet, that leads to potential abuses. And so, in a free country such as ours, I believe we should be willing to give up some of the things that we could gain in order to maintain personal freedoms. And I believe that this is one of those times where we should give up what could be gained from such an ordinance in order to preserve freedoms. And I want to stress that I'm not here in any official capacity regarding my employer, but I am employed by one of the local colleges here in town. And you would be surprised how young some of those freshmen can look. Besides the fact that we have full-time students that are under the age of 18, so many of these students age 18 to 22 look like they're 15 or 16. And for them to be going to Starbucks in between classes or Walmart or wherever they may want to go and have the potential to be stopped and questioned by city police is not good PR at all in a college town. So anyway, I would urge everyone to preserve our freedoms and to vote against the proposed daytime juvenile curfew ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience that would like to make any public comment on any item or new business? If not, we'll go on to the first readings. Consideration of the ordinance to close an abandoned unnamed alley running north off Preston Street, just west of North Royal Street, submitted by the City Housing Department.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
This again is in our effort to take these alleys and streets that are no longer used for public purpose and put them back in private ownership. We've been moving to identify these, and this is just another one in that group. I have some pictures I'll show you. Basically, if you didn't know it was an alley, you would think this was just a driveway that serves this property. The alley is in this area right here. And there it is. And it just goes back to the back of the property. Let me find one, I'll show you. And just stops. And so it's not serving as public access to serve multiple properties, so it really isn't in the public interest, and we're recommending that it be closed and abandoned, and the Planning Commission has recommended that to you.
Question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
You've not received any calls or any concerns, and
No,
I
sir.
haven't either. So, and as you show, that alley does not go all the way through.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, this is an ordinance on first reading, so we'll have a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone present who would like to speak in support or opposition to the passage of this ordinance. If not, we'll close the public hearing, and is there a motion for approval on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, second, discussion. Council, please vote.
And the vote is unanimous.
Second reading is consideration proposed daytime juvenile curfew. Council has approved this ordinance on first reading. Mr. Corley is here to answer any questions from council.
Yes. We just had a man come up and speak quite eloquently about the rights and freedoms of people in the country of the United States. How are we going to handle that particular problem, which will be a problem?
Okay. I do want to address that. This ordinance does not change or present any more ability for an officer to stop the juveniles. The state compulsory attendance law that's already in existence provides the officer the reasonable suspicion to stop and detain anyone who may fall under that category to determine whether or not they should be in school or not. So the ordinance itself does not add any more latitude to the stopping.
The ordinance itself basically just gives you the power, the police department, the power to ask those questions.
It provides us avenues, once we've made the stop and determined that the child is supposed to be in school, of what to do with them.
Counselor, how does it do that then? Because it begs the question then, if it does everything that the state already does, then why do we need it?
The state compulsory attendance law says that the children should be in school, and it defines truancy at a certain time period, beyond so many days. The ordinance allows us to find out whether or not supposed to be in school prior to that reporting time of truancy. But as far as the mechanism to allow the stop under the Fourth Amendment and under the Tennessee Constitution as well, that is already present under state law.
Any other questions from council?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion for approval, second. In discussion?
One question, just one more question. We were talking about state law. Has the state law ever been challenged in constitutional court?
Not that we're aware of. We haven't been able to find
Any type of challenge?
any type of challenge.
Okay.
One other thing that I might add that this ordinance is going to do, it makes it a violation for a juvenile who is expelled, suspended, not at school for some reason that he needs to be at school, or he or she needs to be at school. It makes it a violation to be out in public, and that's different from the state law.
Can you explain how it differs?
Well, the state law is a truancy law.
Right.
So once a child has been absent so many days from school, he's truant, and he's
Right.
in violation of not being at school. But this ordinance takes those children who are not at school for no good reason. They're not at school, they are out in the public and supposed to be at school. They are not, that makes it a violation of a local ordinance to be out and about. Now, if you're homeschooled, if you're out of school for a legitimate reason, your school knows you're out, if it's summertime, if it's Christmas break, if you're traveling with your parent, if you're with a parent, if you've got permission from a parent, then all of those things are protected in our ordinance.
So in other words, you don't have to wait the 3 days? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. And I have just another question as well. How are you going to deal with young people that look under the age in cars? Or is this specifically targeted to people walking or pedestrians?
It's not specifically targeted to pedestrian traffic.
Okay.
The reasonable suspicion still has to be there that
Mhm.
a violation is being committed. And if the officer can determine that by someone driving a vehicle, then that's still also.
But it's reasonable suspicion that they're underage,
That's
not
correct.
reasonable suspicion that a crime is being committed.
That's correct. Reasonable suspicion that they might be violating this ordinance.
Right, I understand.
Correct. There's one other thing I'd like to add, and it's a typographical issue in the copies that you have here. In section 102, under definitions, number 2, compulsory attendance law, the definition there, the statute that is listed should be 49-6-3001 et sec, instead of 49-3-3001.
Should we make a motion to amend that right now?
I think
We
you
should.
have to.
I'll make a motion that we make that amendment.
I'll second.
Okay, we have an amendment to the ordinance, and properly second. Any discussion on the amendment? Council, please vote.
The vote is unanimous.
Going back to the ordinance as amended, is there a motion
We've already made that motion.
and a second? Okay, all right. Any additional discussion from council?
Mayor, I did have a question. I guess this is for someone, for maybe the school system, but I guess I wanted just to know what happens when a child is truant, and how will this ordinance either help that or be a part of that? So if there is anyone from the school system that can answer that question, I don't know if you guys can answer that question as well.
We did work very closely with the school system in the development of the ordinance.
Sure.
This,
I think we have a representative from the school system here.
I thought I saw it.
I was thinking, you want to
up.
come up and try to answer Councilman Brooks' question, if you would, as it relates to truancy.
Good morning.
Good morning. As relates to truancy, your question was?
What happens when a child is determined to be truant?
When a child is determined to be truant, a letter is being sent to the parent, or a call has been made to the home letting the parent know that their child is truant from school. And in that respect, a hearing is set up, or they may have to come to an informal hearing. It will be formal or informal.
Mm-hmm. Are any services offered to the parent and the child at that time?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
There are, Department of Children's Services offer a service which, if it relates to that child being absent without cause,
Mhm.
and that parent has an opportunity to actually get services from Department of Children's Services to help that parent that child.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Any other questions?
Just one more question for the police. The one thing that I talked about this before, and it was the cost of this particular program. Earlier this year on the Safe Neighborhood programs, they had put a dollar figure of $275,000 on that. I'm sitting here looking at this table too, which is total unexcused tardy days by school over the years 2008, 2009, and the number of days tardy is astronomical, to say the least. And I guess is that there are thousands of kids out there being tardy, and that's probably not true, but can you give me an indication of how many students during that period of time were tardy?
That may be something the school system
Yeah, can you?
I actually don't have that figure in front of me, I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay, but I know those are incidences.
There are a lot of students that are truant from school.
So it's probably going to increase our cost by some dollar figure, is that correct?
Increase our cost.
Our cost for the police department. Are we going to need more officers to make sure this is handled
I
properly?
would not think that
enforced?
you would have to increase your police department. I think that the police department has an adequate staffing that could actually, even if it was a routine stop of a traffic violation, I'm sure that if there's a child in the car and it may be a child that has, that is truant, and by
Mhm.
name, they would recognize that name.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from?
Not a question, Mayor, just a comment. You, of course, we know we've dealt with this issue several times, and that has come before the council. And I am, of course, cognizant of the need of our city to be safe. However, there's a lot of language in what we have received in criminalizing these young people in a sense and reducing crime. I would just hope, and I hope through some of my questions, you see my concern that we are actually serving these children and providing a means for them to make a change in their lives. So I hope that even through this ordinance, in that we are finding where these kids are and possibly stopping them. I hope that in the end that they are encouraged to go back to school, that their parents are given the services that they need in order to help their children, and that there is more than just making these actions a crime and considering the criminal element in our city. I do understand that there's a need for that, but I also hope that that the educational aspect of it is considered as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. We have a motion and second. Any additional discussion? Council, please vote.
The vote is unanimous.
Also under second reading, item 2 is consideration of ordinance to close an abandoned unnamed alley running east off of Hayes Street between Taylor Street and East Dedrick Street, submitted by the City Housing Department. Second reading, Stan.
Move the approval.
Have a motion for approval.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? Council, please vote.
The vote is unanimous.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Stan. On new business, item 9, item 1 under new business, election of the vice mayor for the next year.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to nominate Harvey Buchanan.
We have a nomination for Councilman Harvey Buchanan. Any
Second.
other nominations? Council members in favor, please vote yes.
And the vote is unanimous.
Harvey voted for us,
Harvey, I can't believe that. It's just habit.
Item 2, under new business, is consideration of resolution to approve the city's full faith and backing of the $3.165 million Section 108 loan from HUD. Al, you and Mr. Cobb want to handle that?
This is me on this. We are here to review and approve the resolution that Lewis handed out this morning. You should all have a copy of that. And I think Lewis has worked with HUD in the development of this resolution. But before we do that, I just want to refresh everyone's memory as to how we got to this point. Back on March the 2nd, we approved resolution number 2010-4, which authorized the amendment of the original Section 108 loan request that went back to 2004-2005. And it basically authorized the mayor to proceed, which he did, in making a request to HUD for this loan through the CDBG program. And it did at that time include all the understanding and assurances therein to act in connection with the consolidated plan. That consolidated plan provided for the repayment of this $3 million loan through the infrastructure pool 108 loan replacement, $225,000 a year. Actually, the loan as it stands will not require any principal payment for, I believe, like 18 months. So the first year and a half will basically just be interest out of the 20-year instrument that we're looking at. Then going further, in submission to HUD of all the requirements, Lewis has to give his opinion as city attorney as far as the resolutions and the legal commitment of the city, and that's where I'm going to turn it over to Lewis.
When we were doing the final documents, there was a request for a pledge of full faith and credit, and as those of you who've been on the council a while know, that requires a specific resolution and trigger state statutes that come into play with a period of time to file a petition and to have a plebiscite. Because of that, I started looking at some alternatives, and in this resolution, I think it actually just amplifies what Al found earlier. There's 3 alternatives that we have. One is just to pledge a fund of CDs. Another one is to pledge an account, a portion of the account, which is one I think we're going to go with. And the third would be to pledge tax increment financing revenue. I've been talking to the HUD people. This was a short turnaround time, but we've been working on some documents on pledging a reserved account amount. We won't have to do anything with the account other than agree to not do anything else with the account until this loan is paid. And I'm sure all y'all know the loan is being replayed with the block grant developments. So it's a simple, clean, minimalist approach to providing the security that HUD requires. Y'all have any questions?
And just for information's sake, if anyone wants to know where those pledged funds are, basically we have roughly $6 million that is in investments for 3 to 3.5 years. We're not allowed to go any further behind that. And those investments earn us roughly 4%. That's coming down as these investments are being called, these instruments. Of that, $1,333,000 is in CDs, and the balance is in Federal Home Loan Bank or federal guaranteed instruments. So we can easily sell those instruments and go to CDs if that's exactly what we have to do. But however you look at it, it's all federally backed instruments. These are monies that we really never touch. It's over and above the $15 to $16 million or plus that we have in our LGIP that Ms. Bell operates the city's business on a day-to-day basis. But we put monies here because the local government investment pool is earning less than 1/2 of 1%, and we still have some instruments here that are yielding 4 and 5%. So it would be simply a pledging of roughly half of these funds, but these funds are never utilized up to this point, at least in the last 5 years that I've been here.
Okay, any questions from council on the resolution?
The total amount that we're guaranteeing is how much?
It's a declining balance, but it's 3.1 million
Okay.
roughly.
Okay.
And we
So-
pledge to leave an amount equal to the outstanding balance of the loan plus interest.
Starting at 3.1 and declining then.
Right.
And the other question, I guess, Al, is we'll have to show this as being restricted funds on our financial statements?
Yes.
Could you give us, one of you give us the big picture of, you know, where the money's been spent, when it's been spent, as far as the money that we're guaranteeing here? Just
I am not the best person to do it. I can give you my view. It's a community redevelopment money. We're getting it from block grants and we're using it for redevelopment projects. The specifics of those probably are better described by someone
I
else.
think Stan Pilot would be the best one.
Stan, you want to come up and explain where the money is going and basically what it's going to be used for?
The money is going to be pledged to public infrastructure improvements. As we go forward with redevelopment, we have a private investment that brings their dollars into play, and we leverage those dollars with these dollars by providing an environment that's conducive to business. In other words, going in, improving streets, sidewalks, curb and gutter, whatever makes the area developable in terms of private development. So that's where this money is pledged, 1.5. The way it's looking now is half would be pledged in District 1, half would be pledged in District 2 for public infrastructure improvements.
Okay, District 1 and District 2 being?
The districts that you established through the redevelopment plan. District 1 is basically the Lambeth, kind of the Lambeth area and the area around Royal. And then the District 2 picks up with East Jackson, where that District 1 leaves off and takes in the rest of East Jackson.
Okay. And the money, have we spent all this 3.1 million already, or what's the process of actually spending it?
No, it's been approved. It hasn't been committed yet. So as soon as all the paperwork is finalized and the money is there to be drawn down, we will start drawing it down as we spend it on infrastructure improvements.
Okay, so our guarantee will be as we spend the money. Okay, that's the big picture I was kind of looking for.
And those improvements will be approved by the CRA as for
Yes.
both districts, once proposals come in.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Stan.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from council as to?
I had a question, Mayor, if I can. Al,
Sure.
if you can help me, is the deposit account an aggregate of the certificates of deposits, other accounts, or a pledge of tax increment financing? I guess in the, Lewis, what I'm referring is to the area where it says it is hereby resolved, and it gives a list of CDs or accounts or the deposit agreement or the pledge of tax increment financing.
Here's what we were doing, is we were back and forth, because this full faith and credit issue came up very late. I was talking to a lady with HUD, and she said we could do it, other cities have done it this way or that way or this way. So it's because we don't have time to come back once we've narrowed it down to one, I put all three of those options in there. But my belief is that the pledge of a reserve account will satisfy them. And so that's what I'm looking for. But what I wanted to do, and I really think the mayor probably already has the authority to do that, but I just want to make it clear that he did. So we have three options, but we'll probably only use one. Does that answer your question?
It does. I guess then my next question is, do we need to have this in our caption at the top, that we have all three or all four of those options in what we are, I guess, voting on here today?
I don't think so.
Don't think so? Okay.
But it wouldn't, it wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
But I don't think I think the body, the caption is just to give notice, and I think the resolution is just that the council gives him authority to enter into the securitization of this.
Do you understand my question? My
Sure.
concern?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're right. I mean,
One more question, just one, doesn't have anything to do with the project. Basically, what we're doing here today is, and correct me if I'm incorrect, is we're just authorizing the citizens of the city of Jackson, their full faith in paying this if for some reason in the future HUD decides to close this loan off.
let me answer this way. This is infrastructure for which we get federal funding. The federal funding comes in terms of block grants year by year by year. That program think as Ms. Buchanan reminded me, is over 20 years old. We're going to sell bonds so we can do everything we need to do fairly quickly and be paid back through future payments. If for some reason that program were to end, then the city would have to show financial responsibility to handle it on its own.
Thank you.
But there's no indication that they're gonna end this program that we're aware of.
No.
Make a motion to accept.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the resolution. Second, any discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passes 8-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Item 3, proposed sale of surplus city property located at 335 Hale Street for $2,500.
This, we gave public notice on this, and we allowed a number of days for someone to respond and increase the bid by 10%. We have received no such response. The $2,500 does cover all city, county taxes and out-of-pocket demolition cost. This property is, I believe, located down the street from Royal Reeds off of Royal, and that's where we're at.
Is there
It's
a
the
motion?
neighbor that wants to buy the property.
Motion to accept.
We have a motion. Second, discussion. Council, please vote.
Vote unanimous.
Item number 4, board appointments, and we have a number. Code Advisory Appeals Board, the reappointments of Leon Cotner, Wayne Light, and Frank Wagster. Is there a motion for approval on that?
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Council, please vote.
Vote unanimous.
Next appointment, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, reappointment of Valerie Cole.
So moved.
Motion second. Council, please vote.
Vote unanimous.
The Planning Commission, we have appointment of Jerry Day, who is replacing Lynn Henning.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Council, please vote.
Vote unanimous.
And on the Library Board, we have appointment of Gwenda Anthony, who is replacing Herb Slack.
So moved. Second.
Second. Council, please vote.
Vote unanimous.
An appointment to the Civil Service Board, the appointment of Richard Beach, who is replacing James Orman.
So moved. Second.
Council, please vote. And the Jackson Energy Authority Board, the appointment of Pam Finney, who is replacing Louis Dunn.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Council, please vote.
Vote unanimous.
And item 5, under new business, consideration of budget amendments.
The core of the budget amendments here involves two things. I spoke with Councilman Wallace the other night at our pre-agenda meeting, as he is our treasurer, and we received a last minute, I guess you would say, change to our certified tax rate, and I think I gave you gentlemen all copies of this. Basically, we were, and we had passed on the first and second reading, the tax rate of certified tax rate of $1.96. The resolution as such, the ordinance as such, excuse me, had wording in it that should we receive a subsequent revised certified tax rate, that would supersede this, and which we did. We received a tax rate of $1.97. Now, if you compare the two documents, what you find out is that they lowered the assessed value total tax base on number 9, which was at $1,392,000, and now it's at $1,393,000. And then when they divide that by the prior year's tax levy, that's how they develop a rate. So therefore, when the assessed valuation was lowered, it automatically increases the rate. And that adds about mathematically $186,000 to our revenue that's in the FY11 budget. So we start at that point, And then we looked at the same time, we thought we might as well get this amendment in, and the mayor might be able to address this better than me. But at Station 4, there are certain capital items that need to be addressed that are beyond the FEMA or insurance aspect.
A lot of that, council members, has to do with equipment on the inside of the building that hopefully will be repainted, renovated for the crews that are in that fire station south, and also includes a little window dressing from the outside to paint the building from the exterior. It's been there a long time, and I think to miss this opportunity to try to enhance the building and make it an asset community, I think would be lost if we didn't go ahead. So that's the purpose of that amendment. It'll be beyond the insurance liabilities. I'm not for sure how much the insurance would pay. It's going to be paid several $100,000 probably for the rebuilding of the Station 4, and this is just a little bit more activity there to enhance the building.
So basically, we are, as Councilman Wallace and I discussed, we're increasing the revenue by $186,000, and then we're actually taking $25,000 of that and saying we need to segregate or appropriate that to the capital for Fire Station number 4. So it's not really digging into anything that was in the budget before, because we had $186,000 to bring to the table.
Mayor, if I could, ask the fire chief, how's the structure of that building out there? I know we've been through several storms out there with the tornado and then the flood.
Chief, Councilman Dodd wants to know basically the condition of Station number 4 after going through several catastrophic events.
Right now, all indications, the building is sound, even from the tornado and the flood. It has been deemed to be sound and livable. We did a survey for mold and mildew mitigation, and everything was within reasonable air quality. So the building itself is stable.
Thank you.
Okay, is that all your amendments?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second. Council, please vote. Final. Okay, we have one more. Got it.
I apologize, I've just got to get it on the books for the auditors. This is where we're transferring from debt service $32,400 for emergency repairs for air conditioner at the fairgrounds.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
A second. Discussion. Council, please vote on that amendment.
Thank you.
I'm for it. Yeah.
Okay, final item is consideration of invoices over $10,000.
So moved.
Have a motion, a second. Council, please vote. There being no further business, meeting is adjourned.
New day.
Yeah.